Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Sean and this is ToneFlow Studio. Today is going to be part one of a three-part series where I start off with the same initial drum groove. It's a lo-fi jazz hop style groove. And then we're going to develop three different chord progressions to come up with three unique songs. We're going to start in Logic, but then upload it to Suno where we can come up with further backing tracks and then pull it back down into Logic and have some more fun with it. So I'm going to walk you through the project. This should be good. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get into it.
All right, guys. So what I want to do for these videos, this next series of videos, I want to take a lo-fi beat that I've recorded using the step sequencer and my lo-fi kit. Now, the ideas that you can generate from these and just playing around, of course, are endless, but I want to start with three ideas that I can come up with some simple chords in that lo-fi kind of chill jazz type of genre, and upload it to Suno AI and use Suno as a creative partner, if you will. I don't want Suno to generate all of these ideas from scratch. I want to have the gestation of the ideas start with my creativity here in Logic, but then I want to go back and forth with Suno and develop the ideas. I'm going to walk you through this. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is just the beat. Let's listen to this soloed out in Logic. Okay, super simple, right? So I took a guitar and I opened up my guitar rig, which is my amp modeler of choice, and I found a preset with a very nice delay and reverb type of sound. Let's listen to that. Super airy, super vibey, really nice. Something that could be really laid back, something that's very laid back and chill. Now, my idea for these tracks is I think they're all going to have a jazz trumpet. They're going to have my guitar, and they're going to have like that chill kind of vibe, either a piano or electric piano, something kind of vibey. It's going to have that kind of vinyl, crackly vinyl sound. But that's the sort of creative direction that I want to go with for all of these tracks. And I recorded a very simple piano line and a bass, and let's just give a snippet of that track with those elements in it. All right, so that just repeats. And something to know, when you upload your audio, Suno's going to generate its own prompt based on how it would describe the music. And I think this can be very useful if you're wanting to replicate the sound of something that you've uploaded. You can use some of their descriptors to generate some of the additional ideas. Go ahead and, if you find a description, a guitar plays a repetitive, melancholic four-chord progression with clean, warm tone and a touch of reverb. These kind of descriptors can be useful. Or a soft kick with a snappy snare on the backbeat, crisp, snappy snare. So don't be afraid to go in and reuse this as you're progressing through the life cycle of the project. Now let's sample some of these tracks that it generated. I've kept it with the lo-fi chill track, jazzy feel, ambient, heavy reverb, sparse, let's see. Oh, guitar and jazz trumpet. Now I did indicate 60 BPM, and I told it to use the G major 7, E minor 7, and D major over F sharp, which are the chord, that is the chord progression, jazz trumpet and abstract textures and synth in the background, subtle percussive element. Okay. So let's listen to a couple of these. I'm just going to sample through a few of these. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every single one. I had it cycle through a few different times, and I just generated some different versions. Now, one thing to note when I did that is I'm going to just I'm going to select this and say, let's see, cover from this. This is what you'd want to do. You'd come in and you'd find your sample you've uploaded. You'd choose the drop down here, remix, edit, and cover, and that will load your audio into the work area here. It'll say instrumental if it's an instrumental. Now, if you want to have it generate lyrics, you can go ahead and do that. Now, that's not what I'm doing on this particular project, but I just want to, of course, mention and note that. Styles. So this is where you're going to come in and add your prompt, which I'm not going to do right now because I'm not going to regenerate that. But I do want to show you the advanced options. Usually it'll be closed like this. Extend that. And this is where you can come in and mess with these sliders. Now, this is pretty important. If you want your audio that you've uploaded to retain as close a feel as possible, you're going to want to make sure that this is set to high, or I guess moderate is how they describe it over to the right. If you want it to have less influence on what is generated, of course, you'll want to set it to loose. And then for the style influence, the same thing. This is going to be the style prompt that you enter. You can give it a weight of either moderate or loose. And then weirdness is going to introduce random elements and different, as I say, experimental results into the arrangement. And so you can play around with that and see what it comes up with. A lot of times I'll leave that in the safe zone if I want to keep things pretty standard, but you can have a lot of fun with that. So don't forget to adjust those as needed generating this track. All right, I'm going to jump back into Logic and show you, because I did decide on some stems that I liked. Now, just to note, at 60 BPM is what I indicated. It actually generated the tracks at 120 BPM, which is double. Okay, so maybe for its internal timing, it likes that a little bit faster BPM. So if I want to put that into that same project that I was working on before, import those stems, drag them in, I do want to map in this case, I want to map everything to those stems in the project. So I would come down into the drum track because that has the most standard transients, and I would right click on that and I would choose apply region tempo to project tempo. Okay. So that's where it changed the 60 BPM that I had originally to the 120. So what'll end up happening is any MIDI that you've recorded previously and you want to reuse is now going to be twice the speed. It's going to be faster. So if you're dealing with MIDI tracks, you might have to go in and try to either select them and see if you can switch the quantize and see if that helps. But generally speaking, you may have to do that by hand or replay it. But with the case of the step sequencer, it's a lot easier. You can actually come in here. You can see this one here. You can just see the pattern on the screen. It's wider. It's slower. This is ones that I've changed. This is the pattern double speed. Let's just listen to that real quick. Okay, so what you would do is you just come in here and you would just choose your instruments. You'd click on the row and you would just choose from this row step rate, and that's going to be the subdivision of each note of what it's played at. So originally it was at 16. I just had to choose, or rather it's, so here it is at 16. Okay, make sure that this is set to on off. I had it on the velocity value. So on off 16, I'd switch that to 8. Okay, and you see adjusted. And then I would do the same thing down here on all these instruments that I played. Okay, and so now those should be locked in. So basically a halftime feel now for our BPM, but that matches the original beat if we want to reuse that. In this case, and I do have some other projects that I want to reuse the drums that I program because they have a little bit more of a programmed drum feel, but this has more of a live drum feel, but it is matching the pattern pretty closely. So let's go ahead. I think that's about it to show you. I really liked what it came up with for its jazz trumpet. And so I'm going to have it come in with a guitar intro and then the little trumpet lead, and then my guitar will come back in. And what I've pretty much kept everything as is. I've made sure there's a couple parts where I liked it to have a little break in the drums. So I've just gone in and trimmed and kind of spliced and adjusted the waveform here. So it gives it those little breaks. That just helps the arrangement to have that little bit of variation. They're fairly simple things that you can do. And I also have I actually put a crash symbol in there as well. That I just had a crash sample that I wanted to have a little bit of extra percussion. And let's see. I'll show you guys that in a minute. I have a reverse drum reverb, little trick that I did. Of course, when you're doing the stems, a lot of times if you have anything extra, any sounds and little additional elements, it'll put it in an other track. So I've got that happening here. And I've got this is just from the Apple stock library. It's the vinyl crackle sound. Okay, which I love. And so that's in there. And let's just give this a listen. All right, so that's really nice. I like everything going on in there. So one thing I might want to do before finishing this track, every 4 or definitely no longer than every 8 bars, you're going to want to introduce some element, either take something out, add something, just enough of something that changes to keep the listener's interest. So I've added the slightest little bit of shaker in here. That I recorded. It's just so quiet in the background. I would maybe try to go in and really spend some time in the minutia of trying to see if I can adjust things as they go. It's only a 2-minute track, so it's not that long of a time, but it is nice to have those elements. I did go in and add some piano chord hits in the track, just in a couple places. It's really in the background, but you can just subtly hear it. It's those little subtle touches. Now, I do have a Contact and Native Instruments player, this Glaze that I've had for a few years, that's got some really, it's like a R&B kind of vocal-based instrument. And let's just listen to this soloed out. Okay, that is... it's got some really neat things. It's pretty deep to experiment. So I just quickly found something, and I kind of like the way that sounded in the background. It kind of comes in here at the end. You can hear it. Super subtle in the background, but it just gives it a little bit of that extra ear candy. So I would do that in a few places. I want to keep things sparse. I don't want it to be too crazy. I don't want to go overproduce, but I might make sure that it just has those elements. And the last thing with this one I'll mention is that reversed. Now you can find samples of reversed sounds. I know the Apple library here has reversed crash sounds. Things like that, which might work. And you could quickly drop that in. But if you want something that matches the timbre and the tone and vibe of your own track, you could take a drum sample. So in this case, I have a snare that I just grabbed from the audio of the snare stem here. All right. And what I did was I ended up putting a reverb on it. Okay, that's just a really long-tailed, I used the stock chromoverb. And the cathedral, you want it to just have a long decay, something with a very big long decay, 100% wet, so that the reverb just extends out. And then what you can do is you take that. Now, in this case, I'm actually reusing that drum here just in the track. So I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to drag it to a new track, and I'm actually going to bounce that in place, because I want to capture the audio with that reverb as one audio region. So bounce in place, you could call it like drum reverb. Okay, so that ended up doing the entire track there. I just need that original, the one. So I'll Command T. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, make sure it extends out. All right. So what you can then do is just over here in your track region, you can open that up and you can click reverse, and that's literally just going to reverse it right here. Okay. I don't want that last little sucking sound, so I would trim that out. I would trim it to exactly where I need it. And then I line it up in my track where the timing is going to be, where I need it to be timed. So if you needed to be quicker, a lot of times you might have to go back and forth with the actual length of the reverb that you have set. You can also double click and just drag your audio fade here, so it kind of fades in, and you could make it tighter. Okay, that may or may not give you what you need, but you might have to experiment and play around with that. So that's what this is, drum reverse. Okay, so that's my... So that's my drum reverse right there. All right, so that is the first project. We're going to switch and do part 2 in a new video. So please look for that. Check that out. All right, guys. Until next time. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. As always, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me to grow the channel. Until next time.